definitely, like, I had like a forest by my house. Some people hung out at a park. It's so fun that like it captures like easy suburban life. Ed, Edd and Eddy find this turkey baster and their imaginations go wild and are like, yo, we should sell these. Oh my gosh. And then Double D has like a funny line about Canadians, which is hilarious.
Please, a squirt gun?
What? Yeah, a Canadian squirt gun. Canadians are weird. Watch and learn, boys. Just Phil.
Even if they were Canadian, heaven forbid, I don't think they're...
Squirt! Canadian style!
So they start trying to sell them to the kids on the block, and low-key you could tell this is like a desperate need just to fit in. Like they're trying to sell it to them just to like have a connection with them, which is kind of sad. It's a super creative idea though to have these turkey basters be like literal water guns, especially if you like couldn't afford water guns like I couldn't. Like that's such a fun idea. Oh my god, Rolf does his dishes in the street. What in the world, Rolf? But you know what? That's not the worst thing he's done. It all gets out of control when they start receiving threats. Literally, Johnny is tied up and thrown at the Eds, because the Eds are getting all like macho, like the talk of the town. It almost gives like this Western vibe. I don't know what their outfits try to communicate, but it's not that. The Canker sisters basically show up on their own turf and use the turkey basters to squirt perfume, and it's just so funny that there's like even higher bullies in this tier list. Like there's Kevin and all the suburban kids, and then there's the Canker sisters.
Perfume?
Just like Plank! I don't want to smell pretty, Eddie!
Squirt guns ready! Pick a boyfriend!
I'm feeling pretty ripe right now.
So they challenge the Canker sisters to a showdown, and they see even their graves as they're passing by, which is kind of hilarious.
Oh, too cool!
Someone doesn't have much confidence in us.
They have the showdown at the dump, which is so cool, and the cinematography here is really interesting for the 2000s. The Eds basically have an all-out warfare, only to find out that they weren't even participating. Yeah, the Canker sisters were just standing there, and yeah, they turn on the Eds pretty quickly, and it's just a metaphor for the fact that they made this product, and these girls are taking this product and destroying them with it. I don't know why, it just feels like Guns because it got so violent so quickly to me, so I'm just gonna assume that's what it is.
Oh, I feel it. I feel the adrenaline in it, baby!
Double D! Double D! Relax, will ya? It's a toy! From Canada! Gee! How embarrassing!
But crazy start to a second season. I remember opening my second season Ed, Edd and Eddy DVD and seeing this one and being like, this is a good idea.
I've marked the exact position of where to excavate.
Double D's legs are gone.
No, Ed. He wants you to dig. Ready, elephant boy?
Oh my.
You're an animal, Ed.
The next episode is a lot darker too. It's called Dear Ed. And this is when the Eds try to sell intimacy to Johnny. Yeah, they see that Johnny, the guy with Plank, hasn't been hanging out with Plank as much. Ed and Eddy are worried when they see Jimmy hanging out with Plank because obviously that's Johnny's only friend. So they're actually like concerned about him and they realize that he has like codependency issues. So then they go to visit him at the park and of course Eddy has to turn this into a scheme where they're trying to sell him something, which again is like this deep metaphorical rejection thing he has going on.
Ask him how he is.
Huh?
Wait.
How are you? How are you?
I'm fine. Well, okay, a little hungry.
So he creates a store specifically to Johnny that is filled with friends, where he just draws smiles on a bunch of inanimate objects, assuming that'll be enough for him. And then we get a bunch of different cutaways of Jimmy hanging out with Plank, and it's just so awkward. I don't know why Plank is such a funny character without doing anything. So yeah, the scam is pretty obvious when he's trying to sell him like a boot and all this ridiculous stuff. Eventually he has like a singles meeting event, which is like kind of funny because it's like they're a bunch of kids in a cul-de-sac, so they have it in Eddie's room, and then he has a bunch of different friends that's like kind of like a matchmaking service, and of course Johnny doesn't vibe with any of them. If anything, he feels like weird about the whole situation, and this is one of those episodes where it doesn't feel like it's a kid's plot. It feels like it's an adult's plot hidden in a kid's world, which is just so funny. Oh my god, the picture of Ed when he's a baby at minute 6 is hilarious. I don't know why. So yeah, they have cheap friends for life, and of course they monitor monetize this whole thing. It feels like Ed and Eddie live through sponsorships. To see them across the internet, I can't imagine what they would do with it. So then the cul-de-sac kids all show up, pretty much crashing this party, and Johnny ends up seeing Plank, and then they both start talking, and yeah, they finally rekindle their friendship. So Eddie doesn't get any money, and Johnny walks out happy, with the Eds celebrating by the end and just dancing, which, okay, sure. Some of the time these episodes can just feel so random, honestly.
Go!
I must have overestimated the viscosity of the gelatin.
The greatest scam in the world. Gone.
The next one is Knock Knock, Who's Ed? And we start with the boys making a giant jello gelatin like concoction. And honestly, I love gelatin growing up. You just put it in the fridge, it comes out all clean. I like that. I like that. But when you do it wrong, it really doesn't come out right. I remember watching this being super jealous that the boys managed to make this work. Like, there's no way. Ed ends up eating the entire thing, and that kind of pulls the plug on the whole thing. We jump away from the randomness to see that Ed has posters all around his room reminding him of this monster movie marathon. And this episode is the most iconic. Eddie and Double D are super excited about the idea of watching this horror movie because obviously they're still too young, so like this would be really exciting. Feels like watching Adult Swim when your parents go to sleep. They prepare for this, but they can't really find a place to actually watch it. Like, they can't do it at Ed's house. Sarah locks him out, and then they go to another house.
I've had it. Those twerps will regret the day they messed with this brain power.
I believe we'll all be sorry for that, Eddie.
At first, they start trying to break into the house with a Trojan horse. It's this fake doll to trick Jimmy and Sarah, and of course, they're like terrified. But yeah, they just lead them on top of a light stand, which how in the world did they get them up there? All I know is it's like really funny.
We could just go to our house, Eddie.
So they try to ask Kevin for his house, which did not go well immediately. They come up with this like fake lie about Ed about to die, and it's not working for them. So then they go to Ralph's, where they finally get some success, but everything is just not in the right sorts. Of course, Double D is the most respectful there of his traditions, but yeah, everything just feels weird. There's plastic on the couch, which is actually kind of normal for houses in the 2000s, and Ralph just forces them to do things they don't want to do, not allowing them to even watch the movies. So they're rude, they're bad guests, they sneak to the bathroom only to sneak back into the living room and learn there's a super small TV. Double D and Eddie are like, this is not that worth it, but Ed is like, this is so important to me, and like turns to threaten them, which kind of takes a dark turn, but all around, it's a really funny episode, just seeing them go from house to house, trying to figure out how to watch this movie. It's just nice to see them not scamming for like once in a lifetime.
Ed, what are you doing in my bed?
I can't sleep, Eddie. I keep thinking, how can my feet smell if they don't have a nose?
Ed, get out of my room!
Episode 4 of Ed and Eddie is 1 + 1 = Ed, and this episode just goes way too far in terms of logic, and honestly, it's kind of funny. I remember this a lot because this is like very much nightmare fuel episode where all the boys are focused on logic and basically like how things work. With Double D finally getting his chance to show off his smartness, Eddie and Ed realize that you have to be smart in order to make money, so he's like, okay, well then let's start learning. And yeah, this is the first time Eddie actually entertains the idea of genuinely learning, even though it's like for a really bad cause.
If we knew everything, we would be so famous. Wait, yeah, and rich.
Like potato salad?
Well,
I see jawbreakers, loads of them. I never thought I'd say this, but let's learn.
So they head to Ed's garage, trying to find what to do with all of his clothes. And of course, they're not smart, so they can't figure out anything. They realize, like, why being smart is, like, relevant to getting money. They're, quote-unquote, trying to solve the mysteries of life without actually saying, like, any concrete goals. So this episode feels a little random at first. Actually, it feels even more random later. So they start to notice that the trees are cardboard, that the backgrounds are not a part of their main character designs, and then Eddie even grabs the sun, eating it and turning it into nighttime. And this is where things just go completely haywire. Eddie takes off the line that structures Jimmy's cartoon, and yeah, he just melts away, and this is the part I remember the most. Like, they cut into the fabric of reality to see the Kanker sisters through a hole, and like, honestly, this is comedy in a way that nobody else could probably do, because nobody's random enough.
Did you see anything? Huh?
Eddie! Eddie? My turn! at me.
They end up eventually in this like vortex of illusion, not knowing or understanding anything, and it feels like an existential crisis. Like, this is what the Amazing Digital Circus is now, which is kind of funny to think about. But yeah, like, their reality is crazy. They end up flying into the sky only to get popped by a giant pencil and fall to the floor. The cul-de-sac kids are thinking these guys are insane, which I agree they are.
Dad, leave Jimmy alone!
Baby sister! Take your mouth off again!
Big Ed has lost his marbles?
It's stuck!
Go, Burhead, go!
So Ed pulls out the sewer, the last nonsensical thing to happen, and of course, like, it works so well. And he's just running away from Sarah for the rest of the episode. Something that I was not expecting, and I don't think I've ever seen another cartoon do something like this. It's all around trippy and existential for me.
Oh no!
My turn!
The next episode, surprisingly, also isn't about a scam. It's called Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Ed. It's been a while since they've tried to steal money, so I find this kind of funny. This one's actually Eddie manipulating Ed, which he doesn't have any benefit from. It's just pure torture. So they start with Double D making this really creepy invention that just starts eating things and like going around chopping things up. It's just so funny how creative these guys can get with no actual money ever being made. Like, if the internet were around, they would be rich. Eddie convinces Ed that the only reason Double D is so smart is because he's an alien from another galaxy, and honestly, of course, Ed falls for it because of his imagination, and he starts getting really weirded out, but Double D thinks everything is normal, which is so funny because it's like that reality-breaking perspective that like makes you not be able to look at a person the same way. And yeah, Ed gets more and more scared of him. Of course, Eddie keeps egging it on, saying that he might even start trying to attack them, which I would be scared too.
I saw his tail!
His tail is dangerous, but watch out for the death rays. He shoots from his eyes. Protect yourself.
Eddie ends up starting to get karma when he loses his clothes, and all the other cul-de-sac kids start turning on him as if he's an alien. Yeah, because he looks like an alien with the bucket all around him. Of course, the cul-de-sac kids are enjoying their lunch, trying to just have a simple evening until they realize that Eddie looks like a bug. And then they all kind of turn on him, with Ed not being able to tell them that that's really Eddie. And yeah, the karma is received, and the kids are freaked out. Poor Eddie getting the beating of a lifetime by Ralph over here, which is probably the funniest part of the episode, and definitely worth watching.
Much better. This is no bug.
Huh?
Is that Eddie?
Hit him again.
But yeah, end of the episode. That was a really weird one. It is so funny that they're trying to justify Double D's logic, and Ed is just so stupid that Eddie, as the middleman, can manipulate the whole situation. It kind of works out perfectly for the characters, but the fact that they take it this far is even funnier. I don't know. This one's an interesting one for sure.
Hello, stupid wind-up toy.
Do you smell buttered toast?
Ed! Your stupid toy ate my breakfast!
This next episode is really how you could tell the cul-de-sac kids trigger Ed, and Eddie. It's called Ready, Set, Ed. And it starts out with the boys just hanging out with this little monster toy that Ed has. And yeah, it just releases a flock of birds. And Double D just realizes how disgusting his room is, which doesn't really feel like it has to do with the plot. So then they find out that the cul-de-sac kids are having a grand old time trying to beat records. Yeah, Kevin is doing an awesome bicycle trick, and the Eds just, like, want to be involved. But of course, like, nobody wants them around. Like, the vibes just switch up every time Ed and Eddie enter the room, which I feel super bad about. They do try to sell stuff to kids all the time, so it's kind of like that anti-hero plot. But yeah, Ed and Eddie are kind of insecure because they can't do any records, which is hard to believe considering they took the outline of their cartoons and completely ruined the universe, but okay. So they try to make this giant roller coaster, which is super relevant. I used to try to do that in my backyard with like slides and ladders, and it's like so funny. They end up falling completely backwards, and despite how cool it looks, they never end up going down it.
Eddie, may I suggest something less physical? Like knitting.
Knitting? I can see it all now. We knit a big blanket. A huge blanket. Kevin would have to outknit us.
That he would.
I like blankets with little fringes and...
Not knitting!
The cul-de-sac kids keep breaking records, with Ralph doing it next, and turns out everybody is able to do something like this. That's when Eddie pitches the cul-de-sac a space voyage, going on a journey that they've never been on before, and Eddie and Kevin start throwing each other into the ground on the way, like not believing that Eddie could have come up with this.
After you.
Please lead the way.
Right this way.
You first.
Watch your step.
Follow the yellow brick road.
So they make this like really cool makeshift rocket and shove all the cul-de-sac kids into it, giving them a really amateur show with a bunch of different backgrounds. But honestly, this is pretty impressive. If this was done in real life, they should actually get money for this. The cul-de-sac kids pick up on this being a giant scam, and Kevin starts interfering with the show, which is so funny. They switch all the kids out with the Eds, and they force them to watch as they are suffering in this giant machine. Eddie is shoved out the front, and they put him on the ride they built earlier, only to torture them even more. Okay, yeah, so this is bullying at a certain point, because they're just doing stuff really creative, and the cul-de-sac kids are just not having it. But you gotta admit, Eddie is triggered by all these kids having fun with each other, and it makes you kind of feel bad for him. Like, he's not trying to make money, he's trying to make connections. Let him go.
We must do the belly bop, as it is the only way to please the tree. I am Rolf, son of a shepherd.
I can tie my shoes, Eddie.
This next episode is one of my favorites. It's called Hand Across Ed, and it kind of bothers me because all these episode titles do not allude to what they're actually about. They're so focused on being puns that I cannot even figure out which episode I'm watching half the time, making it really hard to do these videos, but I digress. So we start the episode with watching the cul-de-sac kids be slowly dragged away by like seemingly nothing, and it gets really freaky. Like Jimmy is like taken through the ground. We find out that Double D actually made a giant magnet, and that's the reason everything is going wrong. Dang, Ralph has like a good chain that he never shows anybody. This looks cool. This ends up picking a fight with Ralph and Kevin, chasing the boys into the dump, so they have to hide from them, and poor Eds. They see Ed having a good time with some of the dirty umbrella and hat, which I would not put on if I were you, Ed, but then again, he's barefoot, so I don't know if I trust his judgment anyway. And he realizes that show business might be the way to go, which feels super random. I can't believe they got to that point. So he brings a fake camera and starts acting like a superstar, and all the kids actually get excited to be on camera, which, of course, Kevin's the only one who sees through this. Eddie then starts auditioning all the cul-de-sac kids to be able to manage them, which is so funny that he's taking advantage of them in this way.
I will be performing my country's traditional dance of the hairless otter.
Next! There's no budget for subtitles.
And of course, they like actually genuinely try, which makes you feel bad for them. And of course, Eddie splits up Jimmy from Sarah, which any show business person would do, and they manage to get him on his own, which is actually really funny.
Hey!
Auditions are closed!
They end up having a talent show, and of course, Eddie has to charge everybody, with Double D collecting all the money. They put Jimmy in the spotlight, and he starts getting a lot of really positive attention, and the kids really support him, and you realize that they're not actually bad people, they're just like reacting to Ed and Eddie half the time. In the end, the show goes haywire, and everybody demands their money back, and of course, they just couldn't get away with it anymore. The kids learn that they could just entertain themselves without having to pay for it, which is a good point, and yeah, the Eds are screwed. They end up bringing out the giant magnet one last time, only to knock them into the dumpster. And you know what? I guess they deserve that. This was just another hodgepodge of confusion for me.
It floats.
Double D?
Silly me. It appears I put the batteries in backwards.
You sure haven't been on the ball lately, huh, Double D?
See, the title Hands Across Ed just genuinely had nothing to do with anything, which is crazy because it reminds me of Reading Across America, or like little things you would do at school. Like, why didn't they just incorporate that here? Oh well, whatever. Missed opportunity.
Ed, you don't shave coconuts, you eat them.
Like report cards.
Next next episode we have is Floss Your Ed, and of course every cartoon has to have their classic dental episode. I don't know what this is with 2000s cartoons and mentioning the dentist, whatever. So it starts with Eddie and Ed and Double D creating a Sea World, oh my gosh, which already has its controversial issues. I don't know how they come up with the funds to create these things, because there's no way they do all this for free. If they do, very creative. They give Johnny a really fun experience, which I feel like I would have a lot of fun doing this. But when it comes time to pay him, he doesn't have any money, which is something I've always worried about before. Like, Eddie always just assumes people have money. Like, what if they don't? Ed ends up eating the coconut and it hurts his tooth, only to realize that maybe it's going to be falling out soon. Eddie realizes that this could actually attract the Tooth Fairy, allowing them to get money. Okay, so he intentionally tries to get Ed to drop his tooth, even painting a fake jawbreaker on the fence. Oh my gosh, then they box him, and I can't even believe they're doing this to their friend. Like, this is horrible.
Hi, Mom!
Ed! You need to protect that tooth.
I was just playing with Eddie. Eddie, you dropped your glove!
This is tougher than I thought.
So Eddie starts putting up posters everywhere, which again is a huge time waste. I don't know how this has to do with it. Attracting the kids around town. Everybody wants to help, but only if they can get 50% of the Tooth Fairy's money, which, what is that, 50 cents? I feel like it's not fair, but they just want to get the tooth out at this point. I don't know why Eddie's not thinking about the repercussions. So then they start playing jump rope with his tooth, and it starts like hurting just to watch. Like, I can't even see this. Poor Ed, like, he's put in the worst position. They put butter toast on a fishing rod, and of course, like, Ed falls for it immediately like a giant fish. It's so funny.
Moby Dark is mine!
He ends up breaking the tree, getting pulled through, and then Eddie has a tooth come out of all things, and he's like, no, I'm keeping this. This was not the deal. So then they put Ed in Eddie's bed on the roof, trying to attract the Tooth Fairy, which is so funny to think that this would, like, happen, and they end up dropping both their teeth in the gutter, with Ed sucking it up to get them back, and it is so gross. Honestly, this is going a little too far for me, but hey, I'm not going to be saying that just this time. Ed and Eddie is a crazy show. All around, it's so funny that they're trying to scam the Tooth Fairy. I feel like out of any people they were trying to scam before, this is the funniest for me.
Beep, beep! Delivery, mister!
Did you eat breakfast this morning, Ed?
Episode 9 is In Like Ed. Again, don't know what this means for the plot, but whatever. Double D is selling his stuff for like 2 cents, 5 cents, and it just makes you realize how bad the economy is right now. Like, this used to be a lot of money. Eddie is like, you have to up the ante and like sell it for more money, which I agree, Eddie, but at the time, this is like how much it was really worth. So they see that Kevin is actually doing the exact same thing he's trying to do next door. Like, he's selling a bunch of his stuff from his garage, and of course the Eds get jealous because they find out that Kevin's actually a really good salesman, and it makes him like all really insecure. Eddie takes it out on Double D, saying that he's smarter than him, which is so funny. They even sell Ed something out of all things.
Kevin! Sheepskin seat covers. Wow, he knew what I was gonna say.
See? He's got inside information. He knows more than you, Double D.
Oh, really?
So yeah, Double D is like really bent on trying to get him back, and all of them make a plan to sneak into Kevin's house to get all the jawbreakers he's storing. Yeah, it turns out his dad works at the jawbreaker store, and that's the only lore I think we're gonna get for a long time. So yeah, they try to come up with all these inventions just to sneak into his house, and it is actually hilarious.
But we still need to pick code names, Eddie.
I am the claw, and the claw wishes to fly.
Nice one, Ed.
Thanks, Eddie.
All that hard work.
Him and Ralph are hanging out, and they have a secret party without the Eds, and of course you feel bad for them because they didn't invite the Eds at all. Yeah, so they're having a good old time without the Eds, and we get to see how creative these guys get with just random everyday items. Like, how do they come up with some of this stuff? I would love to know the prop master on this, on Ed and Eddie's crew. So yeah, the Eds show up to the party, trying to get away into the basement where all the jawbreakers are. None of them were invited, so they stick out pretty quickly. Double D's the only smart one, dressing up like as who was invited, but then when the receipts come out of his pants, it looks just so funny. Ed is trying to come from the outside, but it's not working at all. They're just really trying to see where these jawbreakers are. They're checking the presents, ruining this entire birthday party, only to make the cul-de-sac kids eventually really upset. Eddie ends up using this jawbreaker that isn't actually a jawbreaker, but a bomb of powder. It ends up exploding. All the cul-de-sac kids turn against the Eds, trying to beat them up, and that's where the credits come in. What a crazy ending. I can't believe things got this far so quickly.
Oh, cool. This reminds me of the movie Zombies from the Deep Freeze. Hey, Cash Cow, this is the part where we'll be torn to pieces, stuffed into ice cube trays, and frozen and used to cool their drinks.
Non-alcoholic, I hope.
I mean, they just don't want the Eds around, and I can kind of see it after this point. Like, what is going on?
Jim's a pretty bossy guy. You heard, Double D?
Ed?
Sassafras!
Dizzy, I'm dizzy.
Next episode we have is Who Let the Ed In? This is another funny one. I really like the invention they come up with in this episode, but let's get to that in a minute. So we start with all the Eds at the park, which is definitely a nice change of scenery. Of course, Ed is being weird, playing sword fights with no one. We learn that he has an imaginary friend named Jim, and Eddie is really hellbent on trying to get him to realize this is an imaginary friend until they just start laughing about it. So Eddie and Double D are having a good time making fun of Ed, which is not so nice. And of course, Eddie takes it way too far, as he always does, and even ends up fighting with this imaginary friend. He ends up chasing Ed throughout the whole park, and it's just so frustrating.
Come here, you! Let me just get my hands on you! Why you?
I'm hungry. Look at me. Why, I'm done.
Double D points out that this is because of a comic book he's reading, that of course he thinks there's an imaginary friend. So Double D is still trying to finish this secret invention, and Ed is just getting in the way of all their progress, which of course Eddie just gets more frustrated. They end up creating this giant claw machine, which is such a good idea to get money. Like, I can't believe they didn't get it immediately this time, until Ed starts distracting everybody with his imaginary friend. And yeah, they think his imaginary friend's cool and just have a good time. Eddie gets more frustrated because he's losing all of his money to other people, and Johnny starts making fun of him because obviously Plank is an imaginary friend, so we need a special spotlight on him this episode.
This is our expert.
Shh. Plank says to build an invisible trap.
Makes sense to me. Double D, drop the invisible plan.
Eddie then pretends to beat up Ed's friend, and this is where things go haywire. He starts getting beaten up back, which is just ridiculous. I love how they just like threw away all logic out the door, and Eddie just gets his karma out of nowhere. He ends up being eaten into himself, and this is where the animation just gets confusing for me. Like, these guys are just showing off at this point, because like, how is this happening? Eddie ends up packing all Jim's bags and sending him off on a bus, with all the cul-de-sac members saying goodbye, which is crazy because like they're treating him better than any of the Eds have ever been treated. Kind of a funny concept. And I feel bad for Eddie because he was beaten up, but yeah, he tries to get back at Ed in the end. Poor Ed though, he has to say goodbye to his imaginary friend. It's just funny that it ended up being real and then we just kind of don't acknowledge it ever again. I'd be like really scared.
Give me that thing.
All right.
Requesting backup. We're in hot pursuit.
It's my turn to drive. Beep, transfer, please.
It's our boyfriends.
Next, we got a Canker Sisters episode. It's called Home Cooked Eds. And this is funny because I'm actually learning a little bit more about the cul-de-sac. There's a trailer that ends up on Eddie's house out of nowhere. And they're basically confused on like how people got there. And they learn it's the Canker Sisters. They're just parking their trailer right here. And I don't know how nobody has parents, yet these vehicles get from one place to another. Or they have parents, but they don't ever see them in action. I don't really know the deal here. Eddie is super angry because it's his property and he seems like that kind of guy. So he tries to do whatever it takes to get them out. Apparently because they're just tourists, they say that like it's a crazy word, that they actually are able to stay. And I don't know what rules apply to that, but okay. So they start taking advantage of not just the Ed boys, but they even start using Plank like a back scratcher, which gets Johnny really mad. And Johnny's just like stalking everybody. I'm like scared for what he's about to do in this episode.
These locals sure know how to make back scratchers.
I love that it's just because they're tourists, they can't do anything about it, to the point where they actually go into Eddie's house and make themselves at home. These guys just insert themselves into the narrative so easily. They start destroying things around Eddie's house, and he does not know what to do, because, you know, he's the one used to destroying it. They talk about their unmentionables, which is just their clothes, and of course, that has to happen. We still don't know what girls are at this era in the 2000s.
Hey, are these real leopard skin undies? That's quite a statement, Eddie.
They're my brothers. What?
Says Eddie on the tag.
That's it! Get out of my room!
So the Eds try to be clever and find a way to get them off their lawn. Meanwhile, the other cul-de-sac kids are just making fun of them, and Johnny starts building up his tension. I'm scared of Johnny. I don't know what he's about to do. The Kanker sisters get into their own little fight across Eddie's lawn, and yeah, suddenly it's not seeming like the perfect vacation place as they create fake weather conditions that actually really harm them. And Ed even ends up throwing their trailer, which is the craziest part. That is so dangerous. And you know what? Why couldn't they just do that in the first place? That seems like the simplest solution.
I must say this worked out quite well.
Cheerio, Kanker Sisterio!
Now what?
Don't even think about it! Think about it!
Please, Ed, no more rhymes.
So they head out in their trailer, everything's trashed, and I'm starting to feel bad for the girls a little bit. But they finally get them out of the house, only for the trailer to come back and be teetering between Eddie's house and Kevin's. So they just end the episode fighting over who's gonna have to take it, which is such a funny ending. Of course, the Kanker sisters don't care. They're just like relishing in all this drama. So yeah, all around funny episode, and I feel like Johnny being a side plot, but also like the solution to it all by the end. Yeah, like he uses Plank to stop the Kanker sisters. I don't know, this is just a really fun episode.
Look, a phenomenon. The spirit's a little low on cash. I need bus fare to join us. Huh.
Next episode we got is Rambling Ed, and it starts with Eddie being a fortune teller, which is really interesting. I like it when they take these really creative approaches. He justifies the payment by saying that the spirit needs money for the bus to get here, which is actually really funny. So they're doing this for Ralph, and they paint Ed white, which I guess is whiteface? I don't know if that's actually a thing, and scaring Ralph to death. They end up seeing Sarah interrupt this entire illusion, only for Ralph to want his money back, and they take Ed up the stairs. Apparently, he hasn't done his chores, and yeah, this is a whole episode where we just lose Ed. So Sarah starts ridiculing Ed to do a certain amount of chores, and it's like very husband and wife vibes, but brother and sister, and it's just funny the way they like assume responsibility in the household. Like Ed does report to her and helps her with her chores, and is kind of a sweet older brother, which is actually really nice. Eddie is like, you need to move out, so that way you don't have to listen to all these chores, and we can do our scams. And it's like, okay, I don't know if you can do that, but sure.
Get over it. If she told you to jump in a lake with a rock tied to your head and wait for naked photos of you to develop so she can hand them out to all the kids in the cul-de-sac, would you?
I had socks on, Eddie.
Oh.
Eddie, family matters are best left to experts who deal with situations like...
Nice shot, Eddie!
Johnny takes a bunch of Ed's stuff and dresses up like him, which is just a funny short shot, but hey. They try to move into Ralph's barn, which he does not take lightly until, yeah, he eventually does agree to have it happen. So they turn this whole place into his bachelor pad, and this is actually really cool. Like, you could take a new area and, like, make it your own. Like, I love that. So they end up overstaying their welcome at Ralph's farm, getting him to be the straight man in the whole situation, thinking the Eds are ridiculous, and it's funny, it feels like it's following him to a certain extent. They even take stuff from his fridge, and they're horrible people. I don't know why they're taking advantage of Ralph this much. Like, starting off with a fortune teller and taking his entire barn, like, come on. Eddie and Double D start living there too, which is even more confusing. And yeah, they basically push Ralph to the brink, eventually kicking them out. And it's funny how he does it, because Ralph acts like a fortune teller too, and just completely beats them up.
The spirit of the rhyme speaks.
Ooh, what does it say?
Yeah, tell us, oh Swami.
Ah, it says that your day will begin by cleaning my pig pen.
And this completely gets them in trouble. The end. And that was just such a funny idea for an episode. Like, I can't believe how much they're overstaying their welcome throughout this and how much Ralph actually tolerates. I feel bad for Ralph. I feel like they take advantage of him and his, like, weak understanding of, like, the culture and actually, like, turn it against him. So, he deserved this one. This is a good karmic moment.
Ed, can you please answer the phone?
Train me, Double D! Arf! Arf!
For all our sakes, let's hope your house broken, Ed. Double D's room. Double D speaking.
Next episode we got is To Sir with Ed. And this one is actually really funny. Eddie starts out trying different hairstyles and imitating the people of the cul-de-sac, which also makes me think he has like traumatic issues with being rejected by them. Oh, I feel so bad for Eddie. He calls his friends over when he thinks there's a snake under the bed, so Ed and Double D have to show up. And it's crazy because at the same time Naz shows up. Turns out she's babysitting and he does not know what to do. Like, he is not comfortable with a girl in the house. And also they have a crush on her, but that's just assumed. They never say it. They just kind of go about like trying to figure out how to woo her, and I feel like that should have been communicated. And he says the best way to get to a woman's heart is money, and you could see this guy's future like spelled out in front of him.
It says a date begins with witty and humorous conversation in order to discover compatibility.
In your dreams, my brother told me that chicks are wowed by only one thing: cash.
That's so superficial, Eddie. Females admire more meaningful things, like sincerity, respect, and good grooming.
A potato chip!
He dresses in like a really fancy, rich outfit, and of course Naz doesn't even pick up on anything. She's just trying to make him dinner. She's just babysitting, and yeah, it's just Ed and Double D are just waiting on the sidelines as Eddie goes on this date that he didn't supposedly want. I don't know why Naz finds this all charming. Like, she just kind of giggles at the stuff he says, when really he's kind of a crazy guy. I'd be like, what the heck? Ralph and the Acorn Scouts show up, only to start taking over the house with Naz. Oh my gosh, so they're fighting from the inside. Naz puts Eddie in the bath, which is actually really embarrassing, and of course the cul-de-sac kids just go out to hang out without them. And I'm just like curious the age gap here, like why is Eddie the kid and Naz babysitting? And yeah, all the kids from the cul-de-sac come in to see Eddie naked in the tub, and it's just a really awkward episode. I feel like this time I feel bad for Eddie more so than him scamming to get away with it. Like, this is just more not fair for Eddie's situation. We get a mom and dad mention. Naz gets to be the babysitter. There's just so much about this episode I don't really know how to talk about. We talk about a loofah and like what a loofah is, which is like, of course Double D has to explain that. Like, why can't that just be a normal thing? And why does Ralph have to make an ice sculpture in the living room? Like, that is crazy. They all really take advantage of Eddie and his like free crib pretty much this episode, so I do feel bad. The next episode we have is Key to My Ed, and at least this one kinda has to do with the plot of the episode. At first it doesn't though. It starts with Double D trying to invent a soda that actually doesn't run out of its fizz, which is actually a really cool idea. This guy's starting to remind me of Jimmy Neutron a little bit, the way he's always inventing something, but it always ends up just being a joke. Like, Ed drinks it and he starts exploding with the fizz, which is so funny. We find out that Double D found a key, and this is where the true episode's plot comes in. Basically, they don't know where this key unlocks, so they start getting fixated on it and trying to figure it out. Double D, of course, wants to return it to the owner, but Eddie just wants to figure out what kind of money it unlocks, which, of course, that's his plan. I don't know why the first place he thinks to go is Jimmy's braces. Like, what in the world? Ed, of course, tries to put it inside a cow's udder, and it's just crazy what these guys think that's used for. Even trying to open a sewer grate? That's not what it's for.
It's our responsibility to see this key returns to its forsaken owner so life can... Mortified? Yes. But I won't let myself fall prey to such shallow emotion. Not now. There's a fellow human crying for help.
Then they use the key on Ralph's bag, but of course he like purposely opens it just to bring out his accordion and just starts playing. Of course Ed and Eddie have to dance to it. I love Ed. He has such out of pocket random moments where he just says like the stupidest thing and it has nothing to do with the plot, and I don't know why, it just keeps me watching. Like, it's interesting.
Think of it, Eddie. There may be a reward. Huh? Huh?
Like cash?
Booty, Eddie.
I wish I had a turtle shell.
Double D tries to convince Eddie to find its owner by saying that they might be able to get a reward in return. Okay, that's actually a really good point. So then they start to attach classified notes that almost seem like threats to everybody in the neighborhood, saying to all meet at the alley. And yeah, Eddie does it in a super blackmail-y way, so it's kind of funny that like everybody is like scared at this point. He does not treat anybody on this street with respect. And all the kids show up with their own jawbreakers. By the way, it's really funny that all the characters always have accessibility to these jawbreakers, and it's just the 3 Eds that don't. Like, how is everybody able to show up with these things? So yeah, all the kids get in a fight over this whole situation, thinking that it's their key, until the Canker sisters interrupt and, of course, do the following: beat up the Eds, as they're good at and always try to do. So they chase the Eds down the lane, as they hope that the key is going to unlock a door that will help them, but it doesn't. Instead, the Cankers use this key to lock the boys' feet and put their feet on theirs. Okay, yeah, the episode kind of had a weird ending, but all around, still a fun episode. I like that they're, like, threatening everybody just to, like, give their key back. Like, that is my favorite part of this one.
You can make big bucks in the big city.
Let's drive to the city, fellas!
We're too young to drive, eh?
My dad has a shovel.
Well, I say if we can't go to the city, let's bring the city to the cul-de-sac.
This next episode is by far my favorite in this season. It's called Urban Ed, and it's crazy. It's basically about the boys realizing that they get more money in the city than they would in like a empty neighborhood, like suburban life that they currently have. And it starts off really funny. It's just Johnny hanging out when the Eds essentially assault him with information and are like, quick, do this, do this. And I don't know why they're running out of ideas this quickly into the series, but yeah, Johnny doesn't know what to do, and nor does he have the money to pay for it, of course. That's when Eddie realizes that there is no money in the cul-de-sac as much as there would be in a city, which is a really good point. So they decide to make their entire own city out of boxes, and this is the coolest thing they've done, even getting the neighborhood kids to be really excited about it. Of course, Johnny is the only one against this, and he's like anti-city, which is so funny. Of course, he loses Plank, giving him a reason to actually have to go into the city to look.
City people ignore you, they're too busy and walk right past you without even so much as a howdy do. Huh? Guys, didn't you hear what I said? Hey! Boy, Plank, ever feel like you might as well be talking to a piece of wood? Plank? Plank?
Eddie uses every opportunity he can to try to scam these guys, which is so like him, and they even have the backgrounds painted like a city. I love that. They have them acting obnoxious. Everything that's negative and positive about a city happens in this episode, and it is just so funny. Eddie tries to threaten Johnny about the information he has on Plank, and like tries to get money out of him, of course. Jimmy gets lost in these fake cardboard cutouts in the city, which is actually super funny. Kevin is trying to get a shoe shine, and Eddie's dropping bird poop from the ceiling. I don't even know what they're trying to get at this point. Like, that is not gonna lead to money. I remember this episode so well, especially like the girls waiting in line, and Eddie's just actually getting money from the situation. It feels like it's actually working out for him. Until Johnny takes things way too far, takes all of Eddie's money, and threatens him until he gets Plank back, which is fair.
That bald kid took my money!
Tell someone who cares.
And do something!
Can I cater a party?
Then Ed and Double D act like they're police officers, waving a light, and getting Plank to ask Johnny to drop the change, which ends up working. He drops it all, and Eddie doesn't get to keep any of it, with the entire city going down like a pack of dominoes. All around the most creative episode yet. Definitely triggers the imagination I had when I was a kid. And yeah, this is just all around a fun one.
Ed, please? The vibration from the rubber band could interfere with the gyros of our Jawbreaker surveillance satellite.
I have no idea what you just said, Double D!
The next episode is Stop Lookin' Ed, and it takes a break from scamming once again to be more of like a Double D episode. Basically, Eddie is questioning the rules that all of their parents gave them, especially since they're at work. Like, why would they have to listen to it? So he kind of breaks the whole mentality of the cul-de-sac by reminding people that they do not have to follow the rules. Of course, this triggers Double D so hard. He's trying to do the step on a crack, break your mother's back, and I don't know why Double D is defending this one. Like, it's not even important or helpful to the safety. So yeah, they prove that they could break the rules and nothing will happen, like nobody will get hurt, and they just decide to spread this message across the cul-de-sac. He steps on wet cement, and honestly, it's so funny watching them play in cement. Like, this is something I always wish would happen. Once he convinces everybody else that this is possible, everybody decides to start breaking the rule in hilarious ways, like making a cement snowman, and like, this is where the comedy really shines, is like how much they could actually get away with. Not even just like in terms of absurdity, but like the animation.
Haha, what a pig!
Give it up for Ralph, everybody!
Double D is pushed to his limit, with Eddie actually attaching his hat to the lampshade, and we get to see Double D without a hat, or we don't actually get to see it. Neither do the Eds. They just like comment on it, and yeah, we don't get to see it ever, so whatever. The line is crossed when Eddie takes the receipt off the mattress that says, "Do not take off," and that totally reminds me of the 2000s, like being a kid being like, am I gonna go to jail if this comes off? And yeah, so Double D's pushed to his limits. The entire cul-de-sac is in chaos, breaking all the rules they want. I don't know why I think Jimmy and Sarah are the funniest, eating as much ice cream as possible.
Feel the wind, blank! Banana chocolate fudge! And jamming sorbet! Meet you at the bottom! I love ice cream!
And yeah, Double D comes out saying that he alert the parents that everybody's breaking the rules, leading to a complete freak out with all the kids, which totally would happen. I can't believe everybody thought they'd get away this long. But Double D is screwed because he's a narc now, and of course all the Eds have to suffer. They're put into a cage, and that is how the episode ends. I do like an episode focused on breaking rules, because that is 100% what all kids want to do in their society. So like, seeing this actually like unfold is definitely really nice.
Arch smart. Everyone will buy our tacos. It's a cinch.
Grass, paper plates, and crayon for cheese. A taco does not make, Eddie.
Cheddar!
For goodness sake, Ed! Does that really taste like cheese?
It's orange like cheese.
Okay, you're gonna have to believe me on this next one, but Honor Thy Ed, I swear, does not have like a concrete plot. It starts out with the Eds trying to sell tacos using literally things that are not edible, like plates and grass and even crayons. I don't know what they think they're doing, mocking the Mexican culture, but this is just inappropriate. How could Eddie even get a hairnet but not worry about anything else? They try this hot sauce that is way too hot, literally blows up all the characters, and has nothing to do with the rest. It's a funny bit, but it ends up being the real plot, which is... The neighborhood kids scared of this one house in the street. It kind of reminds me of the scary movie It. They're like terrified to go near it. Johnny has some scary stories about what might unfold, and of course Eddie has to be the macho guy and be like, no, there's no way we can't go in. So when Kevin offers a jawbreaker in exchange for checking it out, of course he has to sell his body and his friends' bodies to check it out. Oh my gosh. So the rest of the episode takes place in this haunted house in a really cool way. I love how it's designed, and it's just a lot of like them fooling around, like Ed looking in the mirror at his butt, and they try to make it seem like they're going to be harmed, and the kids actually worry for them, which you find really sweet, until they see that they're actually just joking, and the kids in the cul-de-sac realize they're being gypped, so they walk away. Eddie realizes that the doorknob falls, so they actually do get stuck. Very Boy Who Cried Wolf plotline.
Tell me that didn't happen!
It didn't happen!
Then it's just a bunch of montages of them checking out the whole house, and it's really cool how somebody just left this house behind, and of course the animators have to have fun with like how they're torturing the Eds. They end up in these 3 trash cans that send them on a cart like a roller coaster with creepy dolls based off of them. Oh my god, this is when it like really becomes a horror movie. At the end of the track, we see the Kanker sisters, and I'm just confused how they set up this whole roller coaster. It is honestly impressive. I don't know how these girls aren't millionaires, because they are clearly talented in designing rides. They put soda can clips on all the boys' fingers to symbolize marriage, and yeah, the episode just ends with them getting married and having them run off into into the sunset, with the cul-de-sac kids just mocking them as they go. And honestly, this is kind of just sad for the Ed boys. I get that they're like not great people all the time, but do we really have to watch them get forcibly wed and dragged off into the distance? All around a really funny episode, and I can't believe I didn't see the marriage part coming. That felt like it had nothing to do with it.
Oh, this may not be Double D at all, Eddie, but a clone put on this planet too!
You hit me!
Sleepy, sleepy, sleepy.
So the next episode is Scrambled Ed, and I consider this episode like what Ed and Eddie would do if Double D was out of commission. It starts out with them wanting to do a SeaWorld type experience, with Double D not having had much sleep lately. The episode goes about as normal, with just Ed not being awake for the entire thing. Eddie tries to keep him active, but it doesn't work, so they just try to go through with their SeaWorld plan, which I swear they tried before. When they realize nothing's working out, they try to have him write an equation, but he's still too tired to help. So they realize that if Double D is still not going to be helpful, they're going to have to get him to see a doctor. It's so funny to see them actually attempt to care, but really it's just because Eddie wants his invention done.
I can't read your plans. Where's this thing go?
Attach it specifically to the Combarishmigam Hagamalufitstim. Parallel to the car seat.
Thank you.
They actually get the Sea Ranch up and running, but it doesn't work out because the structure was not there. Oh my gosh, of course. They go through Ed's house, which is the grossest place in the entire show, and try to find material to help them work on their Sea Ranch, with a bunch of sponges being perfect. I don't know why Ed collects sponges, but we see this for now on. Jimmy and Sarah are the only ones that care about Ed enough to help him through his sickness or super extreme tiredness, and it's so funny watching them attempt to operate.
Glue! Melon! Faster! Now let's fix that brain. Huh? We found him first!
Next thing you know, Double D is being thrown around to different people who all expect his help. Like, Ralph tries to get a solution to his problem, and you start to see how much Double D is actually relied on, which I never even noticed. He falls asleep on Johnny's head when he's asking him for advice for Plank, and I was not seeing that coming. Next thing you know, everybody is fighting over Double D because they depend on him. And the Sea Ranch just starts exploding all across the cul-de-sac, meaning that they really can't survive without Double D. They end up, like, barely surviving, all on rafts throughout their neighborhood, and this looks really scary. Like, I only see this kind of action in news stories about hurricanes, and yeah, it kind of feels like it's a very dark ending and not super positive. All around, I feel bad for Double D Extra after seeing this one.
It's the Flying Eduardo Brothers!
You got them in the palm of your hand, Eddie.
Follow my lead, boys.
The gall of this next episode is crazy. It's called Rent to Ed, and I thought it was about to be like about them renting their services, and I'm kinda right. They start with making their own circus, which these pranks at the beginning always start out as a failure to lead to the actual plot of the episode, so I'm curious to see that. Of course, the kids in the cul-de-sac actually showed up, so it seems like they do care about the Eds to some extent, because they'd be sick of their stuff. They're laughing, having a good time, and of course, Ed has to ruin it once again, with them not getting money. Eddie realizes that the best way they could get money this time is actually renting their services as fixers. The same way their stuff broke, they could fix other things. They start with Jimmy as their first client. He has this easy bake oven, which is so 2000s, and yeah, Eddie promises to fix it for him. Of course, they make the problem way worse with the cookies being burnt and the entire thing exploding. So yeah, already red flag for the boys.
Yep.
Nice one, Ed.
They find Johnny stuck in a tree and they want to help him next. This is where it gets actually really complicated. They can't help him out, and Eddie is acting extra stingy despite the fact that Johnny is stuck in this tree. Like, he tries to take money from him, which is not cool. So they try to get something from his house to help him down, only for Ed to destroy the sink. Oh my gosh. Thank God Johnny forced Plank to go with the Eds so they don't steal anything. I would also not trust them either. They make it worse and then start having to repair the sink. Then another thing breaks, and Johnny is like concerned, but clearly the Eds convince him that nothing's wrong. When they end up breaking one of the furnaces, it becomes a huge sauna type room, so they stop helping Johnny and start charging other kids in the neighborhood for a sauna. They can't even spell sauna right, oh my gosh. Yeah, this is just really disrespectful. Not only did they ruin Johnny's house, but now they're using it as a sauna, which can only really ruin the entire thing. They put peanut butter on Jimmy and Sarah, and honestly, just the fact none of these kids know what an actual sauna is the funniest. The steam room is completely ruined when Ralph takes off all his clothes and everybody's super uncomfortable, which, by the way, this would not be able to be done today. This is so funny. Just the fact that Ralph doesn't see a problem with it.
I must protest the rudeness of your guests! What just happened? Make yourself decent, Rolf!
You're scaring the customers away, Rolf! Put your towel on!
Towel rack at your service!
Now look what you did!
It ends up destroying the house completely, which actually is horrible, especially considering that Johnny was stuck in a tree this entire time. And yeah, Double D suggests the right thing to do is to help him rebuild the house, and of course, that's not where it ends. It's just everybody trying to beat them up. They get their karma at the very end when the entire neighborhood corners him, which is actually sweet that they defend Johnny like that, but all around, like, probably the worst thing they've done this season.
Relish the fine summer's day, Eddie. Absorb the solitude of the cul-de-sac, the aroma of fresh-cut grass.
It stinks. I'm bored.
I forgot to wear underwear, guys. Hi, Johnny!
Come back here with my bike.
Hi, Kevin!
The next episode is called Shoe Ed, and this is the most triggering because I feel so much like Johnny. You could almost call me, I don't know, Johnny because of it. Surprisingly, the episode starts out with Kevin going through the junkyard looking for some parts of his bike. He can't find his bike. So Johnny is the only one there and he's trying to help him, but he's actually acting really annoying, just making Kevin worse. Eventually he leaves with the bike, which is actually kind of funny. When the Eds see that Kevin is really annoyed by Johnny, they come up with an idea to have a service where they get rid of specifically Johnny. So they have Johnny annoy a bunch of kids in the cul-de-sac just so they would pay them to get rid of him. And it's so funny. I never saw Johnny be so wily. He kind of reminds me of like a human squirrel in a way. They have like a Frankenstein like montage where they just put him in a funny suit, and I guess that's enough to annoy everybody? Okay. They give him bad breath, and honestly, they're pretty good at making him seem unappealing. And Ed places a brick on his foot, which everybody acknowledged doesn't make any sense. I don't know why, that's just like my favorite part.
I glued a block of wood to Johnny's foot.
Ed, why did you glue a wooden block to Johnny's foot? Why these chains? And why the suit? Why Johnny?
So he starts to annoy Sarah and Jimmy, actually getting them to pay Eds to get rid of him. And honestly, like, I can't believe it actually works. This is crazy that they're getting away with it. Next, they try to get rid of Ralph, but he's a lot harder to get rid of because he's used to all Johnny's attributes, and he's, like, almost, like, flattered by it. I don't know what Ralph's deal is. He gets even more confusing the more we go on through this series. The Eds get mad, and of course, they try to get him to kick it up a notch by getting all of Ralph's animals to attack him. Oh my lord. It ends up getting the Eds too, and yeah, this is where the karma comes in because Johnny just tells them all jokes as they're trapped in this box with rabid animals. Yeah, what a crazy ending to an episode, but I do like that, like, they're offering services for the other people in the cul-de-sac, and I like that we're seeing more perspectives here. Good one.
Huh? What's your figure, Kev? Gerbil for a day, 25 cents for 25 seconds, and we'll throw in this free salt lick. Limited quantity, better move fast.
I didn't expect the next episode to be so entertaining. It's called Ed in a Half Shell, and it's actually about Jimmy this time. So Sarah's leaving, and Jimmy's never really been alone without her, which is so funny because they're just friends in the neighborhood. I don't know why. It starts out with Ed dressed as a hamster on a hamster wheel. This is the scam that doesn't work out at first. It's just kind of funny to me that he's dressed up like that. So yeah, Sarah warns Jimmy that if he finds trouble, he could just blow a whistle and she'll be right there. Oh, that's kind of sweet. So Jimmy starts emulating the characteristics of each of the Eds one at a time. At first, Eddie is just kind of bullying him, but then Double D is like, hey, like, you know, he's easily influenced, and this kind of inspires Eddie. Him and Ed get along in such a funny way, like Ed makes him a kangaroo, and then forces him to throw the volleyball at Eddie, which actually inspires him, and he starts to have a good time. Aw.
Your turn to hurt, Eddie.
Oh, this guy's gonna murder me! Somebody please save me! Yeah, right!
Got him.
Good shot, Jimmy!
Double D explains how impressionable he can be, and it's very clear that they could use him for other things. I don't know why it's just funny seeing Ed bounce around with him in his pouch as like a kangaroo. So Eddie starts grooming Jimmy to act like him. And honestly, it's a kind of a learning curve, but he starts getting into it, starting to use the other Eds as a means of getting his way, almost becoming greedy himself. They end up making him a part of a scam, and he's just as good as it. And honestly, Evil Jimmy is kind of scary. I'm gonna call him Evil Jimmy. The other Eds are like warning him about what's going on, but of course he's gonna ignore it. And then Jimmy gets too rich for Eddie's taste and even moves on past him. When Eddie ends up stealing the money back, that's when Jimmy crosses a line and Eddie realizes he's created a monster and it gets violent. Jimmy ends up calling on Sarah, who shows up and looks at Jimmy as like the innocent one. So she ends up beating the Eds up, and that's kind of how the episode ends, which of course it's another karmic ending. Jimmy walks away with all the money, and yeah, you just respect Jimmy a lot more after this episode, honestly.
Puddles can be so messy. An ounce of prevention.
Hey, Snail Boy, move it, will ya? I'm not getting any younger.
Eddie, stop!
The next episode we have is Mirror Mirror on the Eds, starting out with the major hijinks the Eds usually go through. I'm starting to pick up a pattern. I feel like the first 3 minutes are pretty isolated from the rest of these plots, guys. Ed literally is standing on nothing, and they have like a whole discussion about gravity, and I don't know why, it's just so funny to acknowledge the cartoons at different points. Meanwhile, all the cul-de-sac kids are playing Truth or Dare on the lane. They're using a bottle to spin and daring each other to do crazy stuff, which is so funny because of course they have a good time without the Eds. Like, it's always gonna be like that. The Eds get flung only to ruin their game, once again, always gonna happen, and they kind of want to play, but nobody wants to play with them, so they just play by themselves. Aw, you kind of feel bad at this moment.
Their social skills are deplorable.
Okay, my turn to spin! Eddie? Truth or dare?
They actually all dare each other to dress up and act like the other person, so it becomes an extremely personal issue right away. Eddie starts acting like Double D starts acting like Ed starts acting like Eddie, which is actually hilarious. They start bothering other people with this whole ordeal, like Ralph, who's just trying to have a normal day, and it seems like the Eds are just trying to insult each other one by one. Ed needs the most reminder to stay in character, which I find actually super funny.
Pet the chicken! Pet the chicken! The stupid bird stole my quarter. Flew away with it. Stupid.
Excuse me, Eddie. May I fuel inject? Chickens cannot fly, as they are mammals.
I love chickens, Eddie.
They end up getting into a huge argument over all these personal interpretations of each other, which, by the way, I am not getting tired of. It honestly just gets funnier and funnier. And yeah, they just ruin Ralph's life at a certain point. I definitely, when I was younger, would do this with my friends, like purposely try to make fun of one another or like genuinely try to act like the other just to get on their nerves. And seeing the Eds commit to this for the whole episode is hilarious, especially since the kids in the cul-de-sac are not playing with them. Like, of course they need to find something to do together, and it's only impersonating one another. They definitely start to act like their true selves when they go back to their original houses. Like, Double D cannot handle Ed's room, which I couldn't either. It's disgusting and gross, and ugh, he realizes he can't be Ed. Meanwhile, Eddie as Double D gets beaten up by Kevin. Literally, he is not safe. I don't know what this has to do with being Double D, but yeah, he's just screwed. And then they have Plank dress up as Eddie, and then Ed dress up as Plank, which is kind of a crazy ending to the whole thing. It's just really funny to see all these bits line up one by one. The only one who really suffered in this episode was Ralph.
Dried potatoes that may contain dextrose, salt, and saturated fats all over my sleeping bag.
Double D made a mess in his sleeping bag, Ed.
Hey, let's bake a pie and hit me with it.
The next episode we have is Hot Buttered Ed. It starts out with the Eds in a camping in a little fort in the backyard, and this is the most nostalgic for me. I just remember having fake campouts with my friends in my backyard, and it used to be a lot of fun. The whole point of this is to get a nice spot on the beach the next morning. Like, they're trying to get up super early, but we just have fun in the tent for a while, trying shadow puppets, and of course Ed takes it way too far. I don't know how, but Double D's shadow actually interacts with Ed, which is so ridiculous. So the next morning they wake up to see that they've slept in a little bit too much, and they rush to the beach. And this is where the episode becomes a lot more like the earlier season 1 episode when they're trying to stay cool the whole time. Like they try to find shade under a tree. Like this is essentially the same issue, except they're trying to reserve a spot on the beach. Since they got there last, they don't have any good spot, so they have to keep suffering while everybody else is enjoying themselves.
This is so bad, Eddie. Let's stay all day.
Oink, oink, oink. Oink, oink, oink.
So the Eds find a nice spot in the dirtiest part of the area. There's like flies, there's rocks in their backs, and they are not having a good time. I mean, they're having a good time. It's just Ed, actually. But Eddie and Double D are just really frustrated, especially when they see that Kevin has the most shade out of everybody. The boys try to find fun with the cul-de-sac kids so they could just enjoy their spots, but they end up being such a burden to them that everybody just kind of bullies them again.
Hey! Get out of our spot!
You and whose army?
You'd think you would have learned by now, Eddie.
They try to stay in the water, which ends up not being super helpful. Like they're like worried about getting burned. And then they see that Johnny has like the perfect spot atop all these rocks, and Eddie uses Ed as like a camel to climb them, which is so funny because poor Double D has to climb himself. When they finally get there, they realize it's a good spot and get Johnny off of it, but none of them had sunscreen. And okay, this is where it's gonna be a huge problem. Everybody finally leaves when they're done at the beach, and even though they're ready to take that spot from Kevin, it seems like the day is over and they are all super sunburned, with the episode ending on another bad note. Never good karma for these guys. But it is just weird how this plot almost exactly replicates the one from season 1. It like really bothers me.
Pure genius!
How you ever talked me into this is beyond me. We're in a sewer, Eddie. An incubator for every parasite known to humans.
It writes itself, Double D! We're gonna be rich, filthy rich, I tell ya!
The next episode we have is High-Heeled Ed. And honestly, this episode is about the Eds trying to step into the shoes of girls for the first time just to sell to them. Of course, it's not for any genuine reason. We start out in the sewer system. They're trying to do this, it's a small world after all experience, except they're doing it in the gross, gross underground sewers. Oh my gosh. And Ed dresses up as this giant octopus that's supposed to take you away. And like, I don't know why they think that this would actually attract Naz, Sarah, and Jimmy, but okay. So Jimmy ends up falling in the pothole, and they force the experience upon him, essentially. But no, until Naz and Sarah save him. Oh, thank God. That's when the boys realize they really don't have a sensitive side and can't understand what these girls actually want. Therefore, how would they sell to them? So they decide to keep an extra eye on Discovery, which is definitely borderline peeping, but yeah, I don't know, it's kind of stalkery. Like Double D stays under the slide, Ed hides under the leaves, and they're just trying to figure out what these girls like. Jimmy finds the Eds in the garden as they're disguised like plants, and I don't know how he doesn't pick up on the fact they're right there.
May I smell you? Why, thank you. Yuck! You smell like cheap shampoo. I'm tearing.
They decide that the things girls like are soft. Okay, that's a good idea. So Ed dresses up in a bunch of belly button lint to attract them, and it does not work at all. Of course, nobody would want to buy this. Sarah even loses her earring in the confusion of it all, and that's when the Eds realize that maybe they care about jewelry a little too much. Therefore, they're gonna make jewelry. So as they're playing tennis in the lane, the boys show up with a bunch of different golden items that seem to be super random and unnecessary, like even a bone in there. I don't know why they'd be attracted to this. They really want anything that's on this cart, and I can't even believe it. Sarah puts on the spring, and it just like extends her neck, which that cannot be how gravity works. No way.
How do I look?
Like $1,000,000! Will that be cash or cash?
I don't like it.
Ed ends up losing all the paint, and it just spills onto his pants, creating the perfect pantaloons for Eddie to sell. But nobody really wants to buy it, and in the end, Jimmy does, only cracking them in half, causing all the girls to turn against the Eds and just leave them alone.
Spending an extended time in female company can be mentally disorientating and physically confusing.
What's up with you?
Ed's trouserless state seems to have jarred an intellectual moment within the confines of his brain.
Ed? Is that you?
Which, yeah, at the end of the day, just a failed experiment in a nutshell. I do like that they're trying to take on the more feminine perspective, but seeing the Eds, like, fail at it is just so much more funnier than it's worth.
You're trespassing in my parents' bedroom! Please leave now or I'll have to call an attorney!
Edward! Must your father and I remind you to finish your homework?
That is right, son. A mind is a terrible organ to shovel.
Have you gone mad?
The next episode I have is Fa La 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 Ed, and this one was surprisingly easy to remember. I picture it really well in my head. Eddie and Ed start going through Double D's parents' rooms, which is super trippy because we obviously never see the parents, so it's like, what are you even supposed to do? Double D ends up finding an old fruitcake in their closet, reminding him of Christmas. Uh-oh, here we go. Eddie does not like Christmas, clearly, and is calling Santa Claus stingy. I don't know what his deal is. But of course, Jimmy is the brightest soul in the town. He's pretty much Tiny Tim with how much hope he brings to the town. And of course, Eddie sees this as like a golden opportunity to attract the kids to spend their money here and now. So they bring Christmas to the cul-de-sac. It's Piggy Day, where everybody celebrates getting their allowance, and of course the Eds can't celebrate at all. They just never get money. So the other kids are all like celebrating and counting how much they're getting. Meanwhile, Eddie brings a giant piggy bank and tries to treat this more like a Christmas-themed event, saying that if you give them your piggy bank, he'll bring out a present. And it's all like Christmas-themed, making it seem like it's like a perfect holiday idea, but Double D cracks under the pressure and can't break Jimmy's piggy bank because of course it's the holidays and he would feel horrible about it. So he ends up crying and they break open the piggy bank, only to catch that the Eds are scamming them. Everybody gets in the mood for presents, so Ralph starts handing out his clothes to everybody, which is kind of confusing, but it is the true spirit of Christmas after all. Jimmy presents Double D with a piggy bank just because they asked for it, and honestly it's very sweet considering it's like all under the nature of the holidays that makes them happy. And yeah, the episode kind of just keeps going with more Christmas themed things, like the Eds try to go Christmas caroling to get money, and in the end they get a whole sack of jawbreakers. But of course Ed dresses up as Santa and has to give them all away to everybody on the lane. Wow, that was a really quick resolution, but at least they got their comeuppance by the end.
Humans are naturally attracted to the blunders, bruises, and over-the-top cartoon antics of others, sympathetic or otherwise. Oh dear, Ed, are you all right?
Of course, the final episode of season 2 has to go the furthest. It's called Cry Ed, and it starts out with them doing a really successful scam. A giant bubble that Eddie is riding, and it kind of reminds me of my childhood when we used to play with the giant medicine balls. Like, they're so big, it's fun to like jump around in them. But they're interrupted when Jimmy actually gets hurt, okay? That's when the Eds realize that attention for misfortune is always good, like sympathy, for example. Of course, Eddie has to act like he's been brutally injured, like full-on Make-A-Wish kid, to get sympathy and pretty much compete with Jimmy.
Oh, the pain. As soon as you see the kids, slow to a stop, Ed. Double D, it's Oscar time.
I've abandoned all confidence, morals, and integrity, Eddie. An actor I shall be.
You feel horrible because it's definitely a cry for attention in the worst way. All the cul-de-sac kids focus on him instead of Jimmy. It's just Sarah. He's left alone, which you feel horrible about. Sarah tries to confront him and actually kind of calls him on his bluff until Ed actually drops a full-on house on him, making him actually injured, which is gonna be karma for what's about to come because he's actually brutally injured at this point.
Ed, what in heaven's name were you thinking?
Absolutely nothing, Double D.
Okay.
Getting pity from pretty much everybody in the cul-de-sac, turning the town into a fight for negative attention. Oh my gosh. Poor Jimmy, who's actually really injured, gets constantly beaten up by the Ed boys, with Eddie being the one to receive all the attention that Jimmy should be getting. Of course, Sarah's the only one to realize that this isn't fair, and Eddie just tries to hurt himself just to get people to care more about him, and the fight is so real. What the heck? Eddie dresses up in this fireplace-like outfit that pretty much protects him to go see the kids in the lane. He ends up creating a giant hole in the ground in which him, Rolf, and Kevin fall in, and it's like, oh my god, they're threatening to beat him up, but he's like not even worried about it because he has this suit on, until Ralph puts his tongue on it and breaks it in half. I don't know how this went from being like a fight of attention to just Eddie being injured actually by the kids in the town. It almost makes you feel bad for how it all unwound. All around, like, a funny episode. I do like that they're like fighting for attention the whole time. I feel like that's as low as Ed and Eddie is gonna go, and having it be the season finale is perfect. Season 2 just takes the Ed boys and puts them in the wackiest scenarios, with only getting even more and more creative with the animation. It is such a gem to look back on this and see when they started to really get into the prime of what the show was about, and following all the cul-de-sac kids, making the perfect ensemble of wacky neighbors, and like Ed and Eddie are only the cherry on top of the chaotic cake. But what did you guys remember from Season 2? Which episodes were your favorite? And do you want me to jump into Season 3 soon? I would love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. And until next time, everybody, you know where to get your 2000s cartoon content. Yeah, Johnny 2000s or Johnny Toons. Until next time, everybody, have a great day.